Many people have asked me, what is the most beautiful place I have ever seen on my travels across Pontus? They expect a standard answer, the jewelled palaces of Terrapin, the thick woodlands of the tall trees, perhaps even the city of Tronk with its gleaming marbles standing against the desert sands. It is none of these places. The most beautiful place I have ever seen is far, far away from here, out west past the Grand Divide. Through the tall trees and out the other side lies a grand city-state, one built from goblin ingenuity and Stogoblin strength, the city-state of the Underlands. The Underlands looks like nothing special from afar. In fact, it looks like nothing much at all. A massive stretch of fabric spanning a 5-mile-wide hole, hidden from view by goblin weaveworks. Yet beneath this lies a technological and magical marvel. A city built not out or up, but down, deeper and deeper into the crust of Pontus. The Underlands have been the work of generations, its first settlers arriving during the reign of Archwizard Rollins Kimball as head of the Council of 12 some 250 years ago. A terrible time for those not of human descent. Any who were marked different by that maniac hunted by his mages across Pontus. This is how and why the Underlands came to be. Those whom had no place within the rest of the world, banding together to forge their own place. It is perhaps fitting, then, that the site that would become the Underlands was in fact created by that very same Archwizard. May his dust be scattered to the winds. The mountains of earth that was his floating library and his seat of power was pulled through magical means from that very place. A fitting tribute to a man so depraved that life and happiness can be found where his descent into madness began. The Underland has remained, since its creation, the only civilization to never fall to an invading force, partially due to the zealous defense the residents can muster, but also their unique defense systems. A crystal dug from deep beneath the earth, weaponized in watchtowers surrounding the perimeter of the pit. Not even the holy armies have been able to break that defensive line, simply sending their warriors to turn to dust in the searing beams of light. Still, make it past those thorny barricades and deadly crystals, and you'll find a land unique on Pontus, somewhere fantastic. Powered primarily by goblin technology, the Underlands teems with life of all shapes and sizes. Their creed is that none is to be turned away, well, provided they can pay the toll and come in peace. This has led to a city of growth and technological marvels, taking those who had been shunned from the world and giving them a place to not only survive, but thrive. Inventors and theologians working together to improve life for all, combining magic and science to create wonders never before seen on Pontus. A magic-free power system using rare minerals dug from the depths, autonomous worker machines forged by the finest goblin inventors, and medical marvels beyond your wildest imaginings. Lose a limb in the Underlands and you'll awake in your hospital bed with a limb of steel and glass, stronger than you were before. It is said that all things are possible in the Underlands, and after seeing that place for myself, I am a true believer. Go deeper into that yawning chasm, deeper past the wood and stone platforms the city stands on, and you will find the low command, the leaders of the place. There the brightest minds and hardest workers commune, each of the races living within the Underlands represented, all working in harmony to improve the Underlands and create a true utopia. A beautiful dream, I'm sure we can all agree, and one that feels so close to being in reach, especially when you sit with the leaders of the clans and listen, truly listen to their vision for the future. Down here in the beating heart, you can also find the goblin spawning pits, the lifeblood of this ingenious and creative race. Goblins work differently to many of the other races, not being born from a mother, but instead being built by the community. A clan will gather and begin their harvest, claiming the finest clay and metals from the depths. Their most skilled artisans will begin the creation process, moulding the materials gathered into their nearly final form. And only when the whole clan is satisfied, then the shamans will perform the ancient rites of birth, taking from each of the members of the clan some blood and mixing this together to create the blood of the newly formed. After a vigil of 30 days and 30 nights, the new goblin will break free of its hardened clay shell, and a grand celebration will be held to welcome the new member to the world of the living. It is these magics that keep goblins looking the same each day of their lives. This same magic that fuels them and allows them to continue living far past the lifespan of even the elves. The whispers and rumours are true, my friends. A goblin that is not killed is a goblin that will not die. Truly, the goblin kind are a marvellous race, and one that has felt, for far too long, the cruel hand of injustice across the world. I beg of you all, those with an open mind at the least, make the journey to the Underlands. Keep your heart and mind open, and you will walk away wiser than before. As wise as the goblin kind, perhaps. There is a common misconception between magical users that magic is a tool to be used and that it just exists as a limitless resource within our world. However, this is not the case. Magic is an extraplanar living creature that is intrinsically interwoven through various dimensional rifts, the strongest of which seems to be the moon Minoris, and when it leads the march across the heavens, magic of course grows stronger. The theories behind this phenomenon are of course plentiful, ranging from the saner side, that the moons in fact block some form of interplanar portal to the realm of magic, to some that are downright fanciful, the most fanciful in my opinion being that Minoris is in fact a cosmic egg for an as yet unborn god. To circle back to the first example I just gave, this seems to be a far more likely cause for the strengthening of magic during this time, as those who are magically attuned at least can observe the corona that forms around the moon during this month, especially at its peak. Of course, this would suggest that Pontus is in fact a moon itself, trapped within orbit around this interplanar rift alongside the 12, and as such, several of the more religiously zealous rulers have declared this theory to be blasphemous, most notably the Kingdom of Zarok, a small nation located in the frozen wilds. There are also several locations across Pontus in which magic is both stronger and more easily accessible. These locations also boast the highest level of natural-born sorcerers, those who can interact with the weave naturally with no training, which seems to suggest that the magic itself is actively influencing the unborn child. The most famous of these locations is, of course, the Grand Library, the largest repository of knowledge in all of Pontus, which has a direct link to the knowledge pantheon itself, and its daily ritual to appease those gods is a sight to behold indeed. Magic itself is neither good nor evil, rather the creatures within would subscribe to those alignments. Now you may wonder how creatures can exist within this weave, and the closest example I can parallel from our world is a parasitic or symbiotic creature living within a larger host. These creatures have been given many names by the practitioners of magic: demons, apparitions, gods, devils, and the like. Of course, this parallel works on a deeper level, as those who have explored the weave through their connection will know. Some of the entities who live within would seek to destroy the whole itself. These would be the entities that the mortal races would by and large recognize as demonic or evil, though of course there are those who revere these entities as gods. The opposite also holds true. Those entities who are dedicated to upholding the weave and to keeping order within are viewed by those of good alignment as their gods. The first would be the parasites, the second would be the symbiotic. However, there are also the more neutral entities, those who are dedicated to gathering knowledge and observing, such as the knowledge pantheon I touched on earlier. The important distinction to remember between the model I have used to describe these entities and the entities themselves is that rather than being separate entities entirely, each distinct entity is in fact just a small part of a larger whole. The good, the evil, the chaotic, and the neutral aspects are all the same being, at constant war with itself. This is the major difference between what are known as gods and the so-called living gods, as living gods are simply mortal creatures whom have such a connection to the weave as to have comparably godlike powers. However, they continue to remain a separate entity to magic itself. Practitioners of magic must keep this in mind at all times, especially when interacting with any of the entities that are formed of this magic, as even a slightly incorrect rune or a lapse in concentration can call upon a different element due to the connected nature of the weave. You don't want to be summoning an angel and find yourself face to face with a demon. No one is sure whether the material or the magic plane came first. No being has lived long enough, except perhaps the magic itself, and, well, if it knows, it's not telling. We do know that several planes of existence, such as the celestial and the demonic planes, have come into existence post-intelligent life and post-magical interaction, showing that the observations and belief systems of the sapient races seem to affect the very nature of our planar systems themselves. It does make one wonder whether or not magic is a product of us, or if we are a product of the magic. Some of the entities living within the weave have been known to claim that they are responsible for the creation of the sapient life forms. However, there is much contradiction betwixt the various gods. Travel to the magical plane has been, without fail, instantly deadly to any of the immortal races, and rather a few of the immortal ones too. Notably, liches, mortal beings turned immortal through magic, seem to also be destroyed, or at very least trapped, within the plane of magic, as upon entering a rift or portal to that realm, they have vanished and never returned. Opening of these rifts has only been accomplished a handful of times throughout the history of Pontus, and each time this has occurred, dramatic events have unfolded across the planet. These have been unnaturally powerful natural disasters, the creations of new life forms, and even changes in the very layout of the world itself. This is, of course, what has led to the strange nature of biomes across the planet, ice-locked wastes, next to lush forests, next to arid deserts. As such, a concerted effort is made by the Council of 12, the archmages who govern all magic practitioners, to stop any of these potentially world-ending events occurring. Though, if the old saying, time is a wheel, and all comes around again holds true, perhaps it will be this council themselves who will usher in the next event. A sobering thought indeed. Regardless of this, you are all here today because you show some level of magical aptitude, and as such, it is important to remember the key points I am making here. Magic is alive, magic has its own agenda, and magic can be very dangerous. A smart wizard will always take any and all precautions when interacting with the weave. To not do so would be an act of stupidity and carelessness that could not only cost you your life, but also the life of others. That being said, when applied correctly, the use of magic can and has been used to improve the lives of those across the planet, and to defend those who need defending. I can only hope that all those present within this room are willing to do the right thing with the knowledge I pass on. Hello everyone, and thank you for listening to this episode of Tales from Pontus. I have some big news this week. I have the show listed on Spotify. Hooray! I'm currently working on getting listed on iTunes and Google Podcasts, as well as a few other places, so be sure to check those feeds as well. Just search Tales from Pontus in their search engine and we should pop up. A huge thank you to everyone who has listened this far in, and hopefully in the future as well. It means so much to me. For more updates about the show and what I'm involved in, follow me on Twitter at TrashleighM, that's TrashleighM, and keep an ear out for my other upcoming podcast, Blank Block. Thank you so much for listening. May your cups be ever full and your hearts fuller still.